Welcome. So for this little gear talk that we're going to do today, I've got this little pedal by Skyline called Djent. Hopefully it's holding up all right. So this little stomp box, I haven't had a chance to really use yet. So what I thought would be a cool idea was run through how I'm trying to get my sound through this to see what type of sound I can get, and run it through my live setup, which I've also yet to really give a good muck around with and play. So I've got the Orange Dark Terror running through my vintage 30s. I've just hooked up just a basic SM57 running through with this. And what I also thought would be cool is if we record it with one of Shadows at Bay's songs. So we've got a new song we're working on, and let's really put it to the test. So I'll run a couple of rhythm tracks, run a lead track over it, and see how it holds up to it all. So let's give it a shot. Everything's set up now, ready to go. So what I've got is a guitar going straight into the Djent pedal, going straight into the Dark Terror amp head. This is the clean sound that I've got running through so far. It's got a little bit of dirt to it, but a nice amount. I think it's got a nice amount of chunk just straight off the amp head, which is good. So what I think about now is, when coming up with the guitar tone, is what is needed for the actual song. So I think about the little different guitar licks and the style of riffs that I'll be performing in the song, and how I can shape the sound around that. A lot of the time, pedals are good to be inspired by their different characteristics of what you can do. But in this case, because the song, the foundation is already done, it's more of a case of let's see how we can shape this sound out of this little thing to the actual song to give the best for the song. So before I turn it on, let's just run through what's going through the little pedal here. We have the on and off button, which we'll be hitting just in a moment. We have a volume. We have a characteristics, different thing, which I think is just a tone shaping knob. We have the gain, which is pretty cool on this guitar, like volume style knob. And then in the middle, we've got a little button there, which is the shape, which not sure how it actually works, but we'll just play around with it and see how it sounds. So firstly, let's turn it on. All right, so starters, got the blue light, which is a good sign that it's actually turned on. My favorite color is blue, so it's already winning me over. We've got no sound. So let's start by turning up the sound. Good work, Lee. All right. So the first thing I notice is there's got a decent amount of chunk already, which is nice. But it's, yeah, obviously a bit muffled. So let's see if we can clean this up a bit. So firstly, let's add a little bit of tone. There we go. There's a little bit more clarity now. Add a little bit more. A little bit more. All right, so let's add a little bit of gain now. We might have to just go backwards and forwards a bit. So what I normally like to do is just kind of crank it halfway-ish. And already we can hear, if we start cranking it, hear a little bit of the hiss coming through. So let's see if we can find a nice little spot there. So it's about halfway. sounding not too bad, but just a little bit too saturated for my liking. Oh, well, not so much for my liking, but for what we're actually aiming for this guitar tone with this song. So let's firstly just push it up higher. All right, so this is cranked fully now. Yeah, so I'm definitely going to bring that back now. All right, so that's sounding a little bit better now. And always when I think about getting guitar tone, I like to dial it back a bit because we definitely will be doubling up on this with the recording. And whenever you double up on stuff, it's going to naturally increase it anyway. So we don't want to make it too saturated. All right, so let's see if we can fix up the tone a little bit now that we've got that. So let's try the shape switch. Yeah, that makes a big difference. That it really scoops out. A lot of the bottom in there compared to before. So let's see if we can just tone. So now I'm just trying to tweak it a little bit to see if I can find that nice sweet spot in relation to all of them. I think that might be it. Yeah, that's too muffled. So I really like that switch. It really brightens it up and gets that nice mid cut through that we need. And that's the one thing I always think about too in coming up with these guitar patches and different effects is when you add the drums and the vocals and the bass, the guitar needs to find its little spot within the frequencies to make sure it can be heard and doesn't challenge the other instruments as well, because you don't want to have that battle and that tug of war between instruments. You want them all to work in harmony and all working together. So yeah, I really like the mids to the top with this. I also play a lot of crap when I'm coming up with these effects and all that because I'm just trying to test to see, what does it sound like muted, what does it sound like open, how much characteristics can you actually, as in organic characteristics, can you have just within the settings that you have. For example, if I'm playing soft to aggressive, where it's just nice and soft to a bit more aggressive. So how much natural organic dynamics can you have as a player to be able to use within this? And just what I played then is a sign of this has a lot. This has a lot of actual breathing space to add a lot of your own characteristics to how you play to the actual song. Because the last thing you really want, not really the last thing, but the thing I try to avoid with coming up with different effects and patches is I don't want it to be dominating over my playing. I don't want to sit there and I don't want the pedal to make me sound good. I want to sound good with the pedal. So I think that is sounding good. I want to try my best to do as little EQing with this as possible post-recording it. So I reckon I just go for it. Let's put this song together. Let's do some multi-track recordings with it. Take a snippet of the song and see how it all sounds to get put together. And then I'll have a chat afterwards and we'll see if you agree with how I feel how it all went. We'll find out. So, time for my final thoughts on the whole experience. Um, so yeah, that's the Skylines Djent pedal from their Stompbox series. First thought that I have is when we very first plugged it in to have a look at it. Straight away, we got a decent sound through the chain, which was very relieving. So all we had to do is alter a few settings to try and get a sound to predict what we want for the actual song. Because sometimes you don't know until you start, which is a really good position to be in, because the last thing you want is trying to get a good sound, not trying to force a sound out of a pedal because it's just not working with you. And this one, I was, yeah, as I said, very surprised because it happened straight away. And it didn't take long at all for us to actually get to the point where I was ready to start recording. So we got ourselves in a situation where we could use a sound that we're happy with and what we got to work towards a song, rather than being in a negative situation where we were forced to try and get something good out of it and kind of had to settle with it and go, oh, well, that'll have to do because that's all this part of equipment will give us. So, big tick for that. Next thing is the size. So I've got another pedal here, and I'll put them side by side as a comparison. So there is a very large difference between it, but it's still got a huge punch out of it. A very, very big punch, which I was very impressed with. And also, too, it didn't over saturate and steal the natural tones and dynamics of what comes from a guitar, which I was very, very pleased with. Because some pedals just give you way too much and give you too little breathing space. And while playing that live, doing the recordings, I really felt like I could play a little bit softer, a little bit harder, and really still keep my characteristics and emotions that I bring to the guitar via the effect and then through the amp, and still to hear it at the end. So nothing got killed in the chain, which is another negative thing that you don't want. You don't want a pedal that just kills it. So no matter how hard or soft you play, you just get the one little result. So I could still definitely be myself with this pedal, which is amazing. It's exactly what we want, or what we look out for as a musician, to express ourselves with all this gear. Now, regarding the recording that I did with the demo track that we're working on with the band, rhythm-wise, really good. Really, really good. Now, if I was doing it a little bit more seriously towards releasing that song, then there'd be a lot more backwards and forwards figuring out the best placements for the mic and the EQing. And I did very little to it afterwards as well. Especially with the rhythm, I pretty much did 2 rhythm tracks and just pushed them to the side. And they worked really, really well together. I really liked the dynamics that I could create just by having the 2 guitars on either side of the speakers. The melody in the lead, I did add some delay post-recording that, just to give it a little bit more flavor and to help it settle in a little bit more with the mix. But I definitely didn't want to invest too much time in going with the mix, because I wanted it to be raw and more direct example of what this pedal could do. The lead work was, and the melody was decent. I didn't mind it. But I do have a different type of preference for my lead and my melody. So it felt about 80% playing it while recording those things. So I'll normally want just a little bit more saturation and a little bit more, what's the best description for it? Just a little bit more dirt for it, because I felt like a few of the notes kind of cut off just a little bit early from what I wanted. But I'll also, once again, if I was doing a little bit more seriously, I probably would have been able to push it a little bit more to get those type of traits from the guitar and via this for what I need for the part of the project, which wouldn't, in that case, would have been the melody and the lead. But take nothing away from its ability to actually handle all the high notes as well. As I said, it felt very smooth and nice playing all those melodies on it as well. So, lots of ticks. At the end of the day, the overall conclusion is it has lots of ticks to it. So yeah, I think it was a good experiment. It was good. It was heaps of fun actually putting it all together and doing it. But the results I really enjoyed. And keen to hear what you think of the results too. If you thought maybe a little bit too dry, a little bit too wet. If you thought a little bit too fuzzy maybe in the mix or whatever. Even though it's a demo, I always love hearing feedback anyway to see how things can be improved and see if we hear something different. And if you have lasted this long in the video, thank you very much. Hopefully it was interesting enough. So this is the reason why you're hanging around and not just left it on in the background. But if you did, I'm still happy with that. That's still fine. So yeah, another video of me just talking about gear and trying out different stuff. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it and hope you're keen to check out more stuff that I do. So with all that in mind, stay safe and I'll see you next time. Take care.